Sophie is an art student. She's painting something really curious. It's a greenhouse, but there's a white house inside the greenhouse, and a red house inside the white house. And there are lots of cubs inside the red house. Can you guess what exactly Sophie is painting? She's painting a watermelon. It has a small white layer inside the green one. Also, its pulp is red and full of seeds. Sophie is walking down the school hallway and meets her best friend Paul. There's a huge stain of red paint on his stomach. Sophie asks him, "Paul, what happened here?" Paul replies, "I was walking to the classroom, but suddenly some mad students sneaked up behind me and splattered paint all over my back. And then he just teleported like a superhero." Sophie says, "Stop fooling around," and leaves. Why? Alex has a stain on his stomach, not his back. Therefore, it's a fake story. Sophie and her classmates are drawing a still life, but one of the students is an imposter. Can you guess who? This guy's work is nothing like what others are drawing, but it's not a crime. But this lady over here has a police badge in her pocket, which means she's probably working undercover. Sophie enters an auditorium. 3 of her 3 classmates are very busy. Julia is standing on a ladder and hanging pictures. Paul is carving a sculpture from marble. And Nina is filming Paul. Which one is in greater danger? Nina, the sculpture is cracked and it's about to fall on her. Sophie and Paul are making an experiment after classes. Both guys bring identical buckets with the same amount of water. But the temperature of Sophie's water is 25 degrees C, and the temperature of Paul's water is 25 degrees F. Simultaneously, they drop a coin into each bucket from the same height. The coins hit the water at exactly the same time. Can you guess which coin should touch the bottom first? The coin in Sophie's bucket. At 25 degrees C, water is liquid, while at 25 degrees F, it turns into ice. Sophie is walking down the pier. She spots a cute boat and decides to paint it. She asks the 2 guys standing nearby, "Who's the owner of this boat? Can I paint it?" Both guys like Sophie and want to impress her. So they both shout, "This is my boat." Can you help Sophie figure out the real owner? There's a blue jacket on the chair in the boat that matches the pants of the guy on the left. So, he's the owner. Sophie has painted a beautiful picture, and the boat owner wants to buy it. He gives her a box with gemstones. All but 2 are blue, all but 2 are green, and all but 2 are red. How many gemstones are in the box? He gave Sophie a total of 3 gemstones, 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 red. Sophie visits Paul's house, and he offers her an apple that seems very delicious. She can't resist, but after taking a bite, Sophie finds a worm in the apple. Paul apologizes, but Sophie says, "Don't worry, it could be even worse." Can you guess what could be worse? Sophie could have found a half of worm. The next morning, Sophie enters the classroom. She sees Nina claiming that she had painted this portrait. Sophie gets furious and says, "You're a liar! It's my work!" Can you spot the real author? Nina signed this work in the right upper corner, but take a closer look at the lower left corner. We can still see the name Sophie under a layer of fresh paint. Therefore, Sophie painted this portrait. Sophie brings some of her recent works to an art gallery hoping to sell them. The dealer says, "Sorry, but we only sell antique drawings. They should be at least 300 years old." Sophie says, "Liar," and leaves. Can you guess why? Take a look at this painting. This elegant medieval lady has a sports car parked in her backyard. Sophie's brother Mike lives in the country with his wife. Sophie wants to visit them next weekend, but this week, Mike's wife is feeling very sick. Mike calls Sophie and says, "Sorry, we can't host you. My wife is sick. She might have appendicitis." Sophie replies, "This can't be true. I took your wife to the hospital 2 years ago myself, and she had her appendix removed." When diagnosed, Mike's wife was found to have appendicitis. Can you explain this mystery? It's possible because Mike had remarried and forgot to tell Sophie. Sophie is heading to the classroom and finds her art teacher, Mr. Wolf, unconscious on the floor. She takes him to the hospital. According to doctors, he has a severe allergic reaction. But Mr. Wolf insists that he hadn't eaten anything all day. Sophie interrogates everyone who was around Mr. Wolf that day. The cleaning lady says, "I wash the class in the morning. I only use organic and allergy-friendly products." Nina says, "I was painting vases in the classroom all day. Mr. Wolf was there too, but I didn't see him eating any food." And Paul says, "I saw Mr. Wolf in the library early in the morning. He was looking perfectly fine." Can you guess who caused Mr. Wolf's allergy? The cleaning lady. Although she used allergy-friendly products, she put the pencils in a jar with paint remover while cleaning his desk. Later that day, Mr. Wolf took one of these toxic pencils, chewed it, and got sick. Sophie returns back to the art school to prepare an exhibition. She's standing at the center of a ladder, preparing to hang a poster on the wall. She climbs up 6 steps, but suddenly the ladder begins to stagger, forcing her to come down 10 steps. Sophie asks Paul to hold the ladder and climbs 18 steps to the very top. Can you count the total number of steps on this ladder? Let's say that the middle step number is x. From the middle step, Sophie goes up 6 steps, which is x plus 6. Then she goes down 10 steps, and she's now at x minus 4. After that, Sophie goes up 18 steps, so she's now at x plus 14, or at the very top of the ladder. 14 steps from the top, plus 14 steps from the bottom, plus the middle step, and we get 29 steps. The art exhibition is going well. Hundreds of people came over to see it. Suddenly, someone cuts the power for a moment, and when it's back again, Sophie sees that the most expensive sculpture is missing. Can you help her find the thief? This elegant lady on the left. Her bag is looking full now, and it's hanging on the opposite shoulder. 3 art dealers approach Sophie during the exhibition to offer collaboration. Isabella shows her a picture of a beautiful villa on her phone and says, "Young lady, you must come to my art residence in Italy this summer. I'm ready to cover all your expenses." Sebastian says, "Darling, I'd love to buy 2 of your paintings for my private collection. Do you accept checks?" And Tina says, "I have a new book coming out this fall. Would you like to draw illustrations?" Only one of these deals is not fake. Can you help Sophie figure out which one? There are Hollywood Hills in the background of this villa, so it's definitely not in Italy. Therefore, Isabella is a liar. Sebastian acts like he's wealthy, but at the same time, he's trying to steal Tina's phone, so he's probably a scammer. Therefore, Sophie should accept Tina's offer. Sophie gets her first salary and goes to the jewelry shop to treat herself. The shop owner, Maya, complains, "There were several thefts in my shop this week." Sophie offers to help find the thief. First of all, she watches security camera videos. Very soon, she spots who is stealing the jewelry. Can you see him? Or her too? This lady is hiding the jewelry in her umbrella.
John's father has 3 sons. There's Jack, a quiet, intelligent student. Then there's Jason, a popular athlete. So who's the 3rd son? It's John. His father has 3 sons, Jack, Jason, and him, John. One day, a teacher decided to give her students a test, but all of them refused to take it. She could give detention for skipping the test to only one student. All of them knew each other's names. If a student knew they were going to get a detention, they agreed to take the test. How could the teacher make all the students participate? She told them that she'd give detention to the student whose name came first alphabetically. Then this person wouldn't skip the test. The next person on the list wouldn't skip as well, and so on until the end of the list. Randy was at home, sitting in his chair with a book. Suddenly, his sister's super expensive vase fell and broke in the living room. He ran there in time to see a stranger jump out of the window and run away. Randy tried to chase him, but his glasses fogged up because of the cold, so he couldn't see the person. When the police arrived, they immediately knew he was lying. He'd broken the vase himself. How did they know? Glasses don't fog up when you go from a warm room to the cold outdoors. It's the other way around. Michael Winston, who dislikes modern art, rushed into the city gallery and caused millions of dollars worth of damage to several paintings. Yet, the manager of the gallery thanked Mr. Winston for his actions. How come? Michael was a firefighter. The water from his hose damaged several masterpieces, but he still managed to extinguish the fire and save many more exhibits. Look at this line of people at the checkout in a supermarket. They're all a colorful bunch, but one of them is trying to sneak out food out of the store. Can you tell who just by looking at them closely? You might have thought it was the pregnant woman because of the fake tummy, but look! She's wearing comfy sneakers without shoelaces so that she could slip them on easily. The guy in a baggy hoodie sure looks suspicious, but it's not food he's hiding inside his pockets. It's a kitten. And the real culprit is the guy behind him. Look at his sleeves. One of his arms looks way bigger than the other. He must be hiding something in there. A man dressed in black from head to toe was walking in the middle of the road. All of a sudden, a huge black car with its headlights off came around the corner and screeched to a halt, not to hit him. How on earth did the driver of the car see the man in black? Well, the only reasonable answer would be that it was in broad daylight. Nobody said it was nighttime after all. 3 college friends met after a summer break and were sharing stories about their vacation. Lily described how she and her boyfriend had gone to Paris and seen the city from the top of the Eiffel Tower. Dylan told his friends that he had traveled to Africa with his parents. But on their last day, there was a massive volcanic eruption, and it didn't spoil their vacation only because they flew home that day. And Ellie said that she had visited her uncle in Texas and learned how to ride a horse. One of the stories was fake though. Which one? Dylan's story is fake. He couldn't fly home on the day of the eruption because when something like this happens, all flights get canceled. Mark and Amy got stranded on a tiny uninhabited island full of sand and rocks, but not much else. They had no radio or cell phones, and there were no trees on the island to make a smoke signal. Suddenly, Amy noticed a plane circling the sky in search of them. She got a bright idea to make it notice them. Soon after, the plane picked them up. What was Amy's idea? She suggested using rocks to spell out SOS on the sand. Mike was studying for a big test in the school library. It was already late when he finished up and suddenly heard someone shouting for help. The voice was coming from behind a locked classroom door. Mike rushed there and opened it. Inside, there was his classmate, Brad. He told Mike that he'd gone to grab a bite in the cafeteria, only to find it was closed that day. Suddenly, he blacked out. And the next thing he knew, he was locked in the classroom. Mike promised to find out who had done this. By morning, Mike had 4 suspects in mind. When school started, he interrogated them. Matthew told him he'd been doing his homework in a classroom. Emily said that she'd been with Matthew, but later she'd gone home. Olivia claimed that she'd been having lunch in the cafeteria, and Chris explained that he'd been sick that day. It took Mike no time to figure out who was guilty. It was Olivia. She couldn't have been eating lunch in the cafeteria because it was closed that day. Clara was in her hotel room when she heard someone knock on the door. She looked through the peephole and saw an unfamiliar man. He said, "Hi, I'm the hotel manager. Sorry to bother you, but our database has crashed. Could you let me in to confirm some information?" Clara immediately rushed to her phone and called hotel security. Can you figure out why? The badge on the man's chest says Chloe Smith, and that's a female name. She knew the man was a fake manager. Emma's mother asked the girl to go to the supermarket and gave her a shopping list and a bank card. But in case Emma forgot the card's PIN, her mom also gave her a little clue. When Emma was already at the checkout, she took the clue out of her pocket and immediately recalled the code. Can you say what number it was if the clue was a sheet of paper with a fly, a cat, a girl, and a snake drawn on it? The PIN was 6420. Emma just had to count the number of legs of each creature. Littlefield was a tiny village where nothing ever happened. But one day, Mr. Richardson, a rich farmer, arrived at the police station in tears, saying that 2 of his best cows were missing. There were 3 suspects, and each of them had to answer one question. Have you taken your neighbor's animals? Mr. Anderson said that he and Mr. Richardson had a common business and that he wouldn't risk their partnership. Mrs. Martinez stated that she'd been living in this village since birth and she wouldn't spoil her reputation because of some animals. And Mr. Jones explained that his family had been breeding pigs for centuries, and he didn't have any reason to steal cows. The police officer figured out who the criminal was. Can you? The thief is Mr. Jones. How did he know that it was cows that were stolen? Nobody had told him the animal species. A woman was having breakfast at a nice restaurant. At one moment, she noticed a fly in her coffee. She was indignant and made the waiter bring her another cup. After he returned with a new cup of coffee, she shouted, "What's with this service in this place? You've just brought me the same cup of coffee." How did she understand it? She had already put sugar in her previous cup of coffee. When she tried the new one, it was sweet. There's a barrel of water in the yard. You look inside and see that it's more than half full, but your friend argues that it's less than half full. How to figure out who's right without using any measuring tools or removing water from the barrel? Tilt the barrel so that the water touches its rim. If you can see the bottom, the barrel's less than half full. If the bottom is still covered with water, it's more.
Mary runs a beauty salon.
Hello.
She arrives at work in the morning and sees one odd thing. Can you spot what's wrong with this place? The mirror images of these two clients are swapped. Mary says hi to all employees, but there's one imposter among them. Can you tell who? This guy over here. Cutting hair doesn't require kitchen ladles. One of the clients is unhappy about her haircut. She approaches Mary and demands her money back. Mary asks two of her best hairdressers, "Ladies, who did this haircut?" Nina says, "It was Sarah." And Sarah blames Nina. Can you guess who actually did the haircut? It was Sarah. The client's little purple hairs are still on her black dress. Mary is taller than Sarah, and Nina is shorter than Mary. We know that only one of the following statements is correct. 1. Sarah is taller than Nina. 2. Nina is taller than Sarah. 3. It cannot be determined if Nina or Sarah is the tallest. Can you guess which one? Statement 3 is correct. The only thing that we know for sure is that Mary is the tallest. If Nina and Sarah have different heights, one of the other statements is also correct. But if Nina and Sarah have the same height, none of the other two statements are correct. Mary walks around the beauty salon to check if everything's fine. Can you find any odd details in this picture? There's a snake hiding in this woman's dreadlocks. After work, Mary is visiting her boyfriend, Steve, at the police station.
Hello.
Steve is a detective. He just finished interrogating these 3 criminals. One of these guys is planning to escape tonight. Can you guess who? There's a nail file in this guy's cake, so he's the one who's planning to escape. Mary and Steve are having a romantic walk in the park late at night. Can you see anything weird here? There are 2 moons in the sky.
Oh my God!
Suddenly, a thief pops out of nowhere, grabs Mary's bag, and runs away.
Oh, no.
Steve follows him, but the thief runs into a nightclub and blends in with the crowd. The thief was wearing a mask, so Steve couldn't see his face. Can you help him catch the criminal? The thief was wearing a gold watch on his right hand, just like this guy. The next day, Mary is holding a workshop for hairdressers. There are 10 students in one classroom. Each person can see the entire room and everyone else. Mary wants to place a wig so that all but one person can see it. Where would you place the wig in the room? She should put the wig on anyone's head. Mary looks out the window and sees a football team in front of the beauty salon. Each guy is holding a sign with some inscription. Can you guess who the message is for? One of the football players is asking Emily out on a date. At the end of her working shift, Mary goes to the basement to check the drinking water supply. Suddenly, the door slams and she has to find an alternative way out. Mary walks through a creepy basement and finds 3 doors. A tunnel behind the first door is on fire. Behind the second door, there are UV lamps. And behind the third door, there are angry tigers waiting to jump on Mary. Which door should she choose? The first one. She can use a couple of the drinking water bottles and put out the fire. There are 3 ladies waiting in line for a manicure, but one of them cannot get her nails done. Can you tell who? This lady. Take a look at the reflection. It's just a cardboard cutout. The working day is over at 8 p.m. All the employees go home and Mary remains alone. She puts all the cash in the safe locker and goes home too. In the morning, she returns and finds out that all the cash is gone. She calls the police, and they question 3 suspects. Nina, the hairdresser, says, "I finished with my last client at 6 p.m. and left right away." Emma, the cleaning lady, says, "I cleaned all of the studio after Mary left. Then I locked the door and went home. I didn't notice anything suspicious." Sarah says, "I was waiting for my last client until 7:30, but he didn't show up. So I rescheduled the appointment for today and went home." Who's lying? Emma. Mary was the last person to leave the workplace yesterday. Mary goes on a date to a restaurant. Her boyfriend brings her flowers and chocolates. In the morning, she wakes up with a severe allergy. She goes to the hospital. Doctors find out that she was poisoned, but they don't know what kind of antidote she needs. Mary needs to identify the source quickly, so she hires a detective. He questions everyone who could give the allergen to Mary. Steve, the boyfriend, says, "We had the same food and drinks in the evening. I don't understand how it could happen." Pizza guy says, "I brought her pizza yesterday, but it was all right for sure. No one else complained about anything." And Bella, Mary's bestie, says, "I think it's her boyfriend's fault. He called me and asked what kind of flowers Mary liked. Who caused Mary's allergy?" Bella. She advised Steve to give Mary allergenic flowers. Mary gets well and goes back to work. She arrives at her beauty salon and sees these 3 clients. Only one of them is a natural blonde. Can you guess who? The first lady has black armpit hair, and the third lady has dark roots and eyebrows. Therefore, they are not natural blondes. And this elegant lady with green hair has light eyebrows and eyelashes, which means she's the only natural blonde among these 3 people. Suddenly, all the lights in the beauty salon turn off. Thankfully, in a few seconds, the light is back again. But Emily yells, "Someone stole my chocolate bar!" Mary interrogates 3 suspects. Emily's client says, "That wasn't me. I just got nail polish applied. And I'm still waiting for it to dry." Nina says, "I'm afraid of the dark, so when the lights went out, I just froze." And Angela says, "Someone pushed me in the dark and I fell on the floor." Who took the chocolate bar? Angela. She has crumbs on her cheek. Steve wants to give Mary a legendary gift for her birthday, but he has absolutely no idea what to get her. He decides to sneak into her laptop and check out her shopping cart. Mary goes to the bathroom and Steve sneaks into her room and turns on the laptop. It requires a password, but Steve doesn't know it. Luckily, there's a note next to Mary's laptop saying 6226. Sam tries it, but it doesn't work. Can you crack the password? Steve should try 222-222-66. Mary puts her stuff in the storage room and leaves for a while. When she returns, she notices that someone has stolen her bag. The manager calls the police and locks the doors. A policeman comes over and identifies 3 suspects. The hairdresser had a live stream with her Instagram followers. The manicurist says that she was focused on her work. And the cleaner says that he was washing the floor and he didn't notice anyone suspicious. Have you guessed who the thief is? The hairdresser. Take a look at her earrings. She left one of them at the crime scene. Mary gives her student Nancy a tricky task. She gives her 3 boxes. Each of the boxes contains hair extensions of a certain color, in 2 statements. In one of the boxes, 2 statements are false. In the other boxes, both statements are true. Let's open up the first box. The 2 notes say, 1. Don't use this color. 2. Don't take the color from the second box. The 2 notes from the second box say, 1. Don't use the color from the first box. 2. And take the color from the third box. And finally, the notes in the third box say, 1. Don't use this color. 2. Take the color from the first box. Which color should Nancy choose to pass the test? Nancy should choose the color from the third box.
Several birds landed on trees. One bird for one tree. But in this case, one of them didn't have a tree of its own. Then they regrouped, with 2 birds sitting on one tree. After this, 1 tree was left. How many birds and trees are there? There are 4 birds and 3 trees. Look at these 4 people in a grocery store. Can you figure out who's going to steal a watermelon? It's the man with a soccer ball. It seems as if he's holding something heavy. It must be the watermelon disguised as a soccer ball. You wake up and find yourself in a locked room without windows and only one door. You look around and notice a table. There's a piece of paper, a knife, and several inflated balloons lying on it. You pick up the note. It reads, "To get out of here, you must puncture a balloon with a knife. But if the balloon bursts, you'll stay here forever." What should you do to make a hidden door open in one of the walls? You should deflate one of the balloons. After that, you can easily puncture it with a knife. You're walking along the beach and spot an expensive-looking watch in the sand. There are only 3 other people on the beach. Who does the watch belong to? This guy's watch is in his pocket. The tan line on this girl's wrist doesn't match the shape of the watch. The watch must belong to this elderly lady. You've got a sack filled with coffee beans. You need to use this coffee to completely fill 2 other sacks of the same size. How do you do it? Put one empty sack into the other and fill them with coffee. 3 young men came to a coffee shop to prepare for their final exam. A waiter came up to them and asked, "Does everyone want coffee?" The first guy said, "I don't know." The second man answered, "Nah, I don't know." And the third one answered, "Yes." Can you figure out what the first 2 guys ordered? All young men ordered coffee. Each of them wanted to have this drink, but the first 2 couldn't know if it would be everyone's choice. If the first 2 guys hadn't wanted coffee, they'd have simply said no. So when the third guy heard his friend's replies, he figured out that both of them wanted coffee. And since he was going to get a cup, he said yes. You have to think outside the box to crack this one. 1 is to 3 as 3 is to 5, and 5 is to 4. And 4 is the magic number. Can you figure out the pattern? The word 1 has 3 letters, the word 3 has 5, and the word 5 has 4 letters. But the word 4 has 4 letters in it, and whatever number you try, eventually you'll come back to 4, and the game will end there. Vincent got locked in a room with no windows and only one massive door. There's a panel with several buttons on the left and another one with a hint on it on the right. There's also a clock on the wall above the door. Which button should Vincent press to get out of the trap? The green triangle. The numbers on the panel represent hours. If you connect them on the clock face, you'll get a triangle. Add this number to the same one and multiply the result by 4. Then divide it by 8 and you'll have the very first number again. What number is it? It can be any number. You can try it out to make sure. Look at these women attentively. Which one seems to be suspicious? It's the one on the right. The woman on the left was just adding some ketchup to her dish. See that bottle? But look at the pie the woman on the right is holding. There's a smartphone peeking out of the pie. What's it doing there? It's very suspicious. The police knocked on Michael's door late in the evening. They had a search warrant. They accused the man of stealing a big sum of money from a supermarket. Mike claimed that he hadn't left the house all day, but one of the detectives saw something in his living room, and it led to the man's arrest. What was it? Look at the date on the receipt lying on the table. It's the same as the date on the calendar, which means Michael lied about not leaving his house that day. Look at these guys attentively. Can you tell which one has drawn the graffiti? It's the guy on the left. He has some spray paint on his hoodie. An ant is 2 inches away from its home. With every next step, it covers half the distance to the entrance. How many steps will the insect have to take to reach its destination? The ant will never reach the door because every time it'll travel only half the distance. Now, how about solving some rebus riddles? This is the first one for you. Hi, 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 hi. That's high five. The next one, noon good. What's this? That's how you greet people. Good afternoon. Okay, now try this one. Way, progress. It's progress underway. Now let's check how attentive you are. Try to figure out what's wrong in the following images. There's no way anyone can wear those blue shoes. They're both left ones. How about this one? This horse looks rather natural among kangaroos, but it doesn't belong there. What's wrong in this picture? Why would a barn have a chimney? I suspect something is missing in this picture. Can you figure out what exactly? The bus doesn't have side mirrors and windshield wipers. Detective Lucas was called to investigate an accident. A car crashed into a store window and smashed the glass. There are 2 suspects. Both of them deny their involvement. Detective Lucas doesn't need much time to figure out who the culprit is. Do you know the answer too? It's the owner of the blue car. The pattern on its tires is the same as in front of the store. Detective Brown was having her morning coffee in a cafe when she heard a car screeching to a halt, then some loud shouting. She ran outside and spotted a man on the ground. His bicycle was lying nearby. There was also a car sitting next to the man. Detective Brown helped the cyclist up. The car driver came up to them. The cyclist exclaimed, "He hit my bike with his car, making me crash." But the driver answered, "I saw him losing control of his bike in the mirror. I left my car to check on him." Detective Brown immediately understood who was lying. Can you figure it out? Strangely, the car doesn't have side mirrors, and all that stuff in the back seat blocks the view of the road, so the driver couldn't have seen anything in his rearview mirror either. He's lying. A man wearing a hat, a bandana covering his face, and dark sunglasses robbed a bank. The police have 3 suspects. Look at them and try to figure out which one is the criminal. Usually, people tie bandanas under their ears. But in this case, the bandana covers the robber's ears. It probably hides something that distinguishes the man from other people. The criminal must be that man with only one ear. When Louisa entered the office, she noticed that her colleague Anna was very upset. It was the beginning of the working day, but someone had already stolen her purse. Only those who worked in the company could get into the office. Louisa questioned her colleagues. Maria, who worked in IT, said she'd been fixing somebody's computer. Jane, the secretary, answered she'd been on the phone with some clients. Andrew, a sales manager, said, "I've just returned from a 3-hour-long meeting. I'm exhausted." Can you figure out who took the purse? Andrew, the working day's just started. How could he come back from such a long meeting?